Hello guys and welcome back to yet another video. Today I'm going to be also making my predictions for this coming game week in the Premier League. But as always, before we begin, let's see how I did last week. I got one correct scoreline. I got Newcastle and Chelsea drawing 2-2 correct, plus 5 more outcomes correct, so that is 8 points, taking my season total up to 103. I got over 100 by Christmas. And this is how the table looks after 17 matches. And let's predict this week's coming matches. And we're going to start with the sole Boxing Day match. It's Manchester United against Newcastle United. It's at Old Trafford, and Manchester United, they're a interesting one. They're just off the back of a 2-1 defeat to Villa. Although Villa are beating everyone at the minute, let's be honest. And then, well, Newcastle off the back of that 2-2 draw against Chelsea. That was at St James's Park. But it's tricky because Newcastle are pretty woeful on the road this season. But Manchester United are a tricky one to predict as well. They win quite a few, then they lose quite a few. It's up and down, but I do think, with it being at Old Trafford, I think Man United might get something, but I'm not confident on calling a Man United win. So I'm going to sit on the fence with a Desmond on this one. A 2-2 draw for the Boxing Day match. I think a point apiece will be what both sides will get, which could push them up towards Europe. So 2-2 draw, Desmond on game 1. Next up, we've got Nottingham Forest against Manchester City. And Nottingham Forest are a interesting side. They are in the bottom 4 right now. They are just above the drop zone. But Man City are absolutely flying right now. They're going like an absolute train in the Premier League. But it is at the City ground, but that being said, they are against the Man City side on red-hot form right now in all competitions and all venues, but I'm going to give Forest a goal, but I'm going to give Man City the 3 points. How can I back against them? I'm going for Man City to win 3-1. I think Forest will get a goal, but City keep chugging out and maybe even push Arsenal for that top spot come the end of the game week. But 3-1 Man City. Next up, we've got West Ham against Fulham in a big relegation 6-pointer. But Fulham, I do think, are going to be okay this season. I think Marco Silva or whoever they end the season with will keep them over the line. West Ham are a tricky one. They are in the drop zone. They're 18th. But with it being at the London Stadium, I can see them getting something. I can see them getting something. But I just think Fulham are performing a bit better at the minute. West Ham are on pretty bad form. I could see maybe a Jared Bowen or a Callum Wilson goal for West Ham, but I think Harry Wilson is on good form for Fulham right now, and Chukwueze is missing, he's at AFCON, but you've got the likes of Raul Jimenez or Emil Smith-Rowe or someone to pop up. So I'm going for Fulham to edge it 2-1. I don't know who's going to score the goals, but I think Fulham have enough to win this match and collect the 3 points. So 2-1 to the Cottagers. Next up, we've got Brentford against Bournemouth. And, both these sides are in pretty mixed form right now, but they're both, they're currently mid-table. They're currently both, fairly safe in the table. However, it is at the GTEC Community Stadium, and Brentford are on slightly better form than Bournemouth right now. Bournemouth are in pretty bad form, but with it being, well, it's the day after Boxing Day, the 27th of December, but I can actually see Bournemouth getting something here, because Brentford, they can grind out results, but on their day, they can slip up. So I'm going to sit in the fence with a 1-1 draw here. I think a point apiece. I think point would certainly help Bournemouth try and push back up the table, and a point wouldn't be a bad result for Brentford either, especially at home. So I'm going for a 1-1 draw on this one. Next up, we've got Liverpool against Wolves. And what can we say about Wolves? They are pretty much dead and buried now. They are entering Christmas on just 2 measly points. As for Liverpool, they've been back at their good form state, really. I think Arne Slot's got the gang firing. Again, Hugo Ekitike with a couple goals with was it a 3-1 win they got last week. Wolves with a 2-0 defeat to Brentford last week. Of course, Alexander Isak did get injured against Spurs. It's 2-1 actually. We'll come on to Spurs a bit later. Of course, Isak broke his leg firing in the first goal for Liverpool against Spurs last week, but so he'll be missing. But I think they've got the likes of, Ekitike, who I might think might get a couple here. He's in good form, and a few others could pop up with surprise goals, maybe Soboslai maybe for one. I do think, though, Liverpool win this fairly comfortably. I'll go Liverpool to win it 4-1. I think Wolves might find a goal from somewhere. Maybe finally Jurgen Strand Larsen scores a penalty or something. But Liverpool will ultimately win fairly comfortably, and I'm going 4-1 to the Reds. Next up, we've got Arsenal against Brighton in a big battle as well. Arsenal have been on pretty good form. They're top at Christmas, although their performances over the last couple against Wolves and then last week, they haven't been the best performances. They haven't been convincing wins. They won 2-1 against Wolves courtesy of 2 own goals, and then I think they only just scraped through 1-0 against Everton last week with the Victor Gyökeres penalty, giving them the 3 points there. But against the Brighton side, who haven't been on the best of form recently, I think Arsenal will, especially with it being at the Emirates, I do think Arsenal will get the 3 points here. And I think they'll keep a clean sheet somehow. I wouldn't surprise me if Brighton did score, but I'm backing the Gunners to win 2-0. I think Arsenal will just have enough quality in their squad to get the 3 points over the line. So 2-0 to the Gunners. Next up, we've got Burnley against Everton. And both of these sides off the back of, Everton off the back of a 1-0 defeat to Arsenal last week. Burnley off the back of a 1-1 draw against Bournemouth. I did call the draw, but I went 0-0. And it was 0-0 for about 3/4 of the match. And then Bournemouth scored a goal to go 1-0 up, and then Burnley equalised. Where do I go with this one? Tricky, because it is at Turf Moor. If it was the Hill Dickinson, I may well be edging Everton 1-0 or 2-1. But with it being at Turf Moor and against an Everton side who, on their day, can grind out wins and results. But Burnley haven't been an easy side to beat recently. They've been grinding out results. And at home, I think they might actually grind out a result against an Everton side who's had a bit of a wobble recently. I'm backing Burnley to get something here, a 1-1 draw. I'm not going all in with Burnley, but I think as long as they can keep grinding out results, draws won't help, but as long as they can keep grinding out points, they could come close to surviving, who knows. But I'm sitting on the fence with a 1-1 draw on this one. Next up, we've got the late kickoff 5:30 on 27th, we have got Chelsea against Aston Villa. And what can we say about Villa? They have just won 10 games in a row. 10 games they've won in a row, which is mighty impressive. And they're going to Stamford Bridge against a Chelsea side who have been tricky to predict recently. They've got results over the line here and there, but, they haven't been on the best run of form recently. And against the Villa side who are flying third in the table. And it's tricky. If it was at Villa Park, I may well be fancying Villa more for the win. But with Chelsea being the home side, I'll give them something. But I'm going to give each side a point. But I think there'll be goals. I'm going for a 2-2 draw on this one. I think Morgan Rogers is definitely firing on all cylinders, goals in for Villa. And, Chelsea have got, some good players. João Pedro scored last week on this day. Cole Palmer is playing again. He's scored a goal or two since he's returned from injury. I think there's going to be goals, and I'm going for another Desmond on this one, a 2-2 draw. Next up, we've got Sunderland against Leeds United. This is a historic back in the day, big match in the league. Both sides have very big fan bases, very good fan bases at that. Sunderland with the boring 0-0 draw against Brighton last week, and Leeds with a very impressive 4-1 win against Crystal Palace, which I didn't predict. But this one's tricky because part of me wants to back Leeds because they're in good form, but it is at the Stadium of Light, and Sunderland are yet to lose at home this season. I think they will. They've got Man City coming up in a couple weeks, but I do think, or a couple game weeks, but I do think somehow, I think Sunderland might grind out a result at home. Again, if it was at Ellen Road, I would be fancying Leeds for the win, especially given their form at the minute. But, they've beaten Chelsea, they've drawn against Liverpool, drawn against Brentford, won against Palace. They're in good form. But Sunderland are missing players to AFCON as well. But I'm going to sit on the fence with a 1-1 draw. I think it's going to be quite low scoring here. Calvert-Lewin may well fire one in for Leeds early on, and Sunderland will equalise maybe through Wilson Isidore, or I don't know. I think Sunderland might find an equaliser maybe through a penalty somewhere, but 1-1 draw and a point apiece. And then the final game is Crystal Palace against Tottenham Hotspur in a London derby, although not technically a derby. But both these sides are coming into this match on pretty poor form right now. Palace with that 4-1 defeat to Leeds, Tottenham with the 2-1 defeat to Liverpool, Richarlison with the only goal for Spurs, and heard rumours about him, having a move elsewhere. But the big story about that match is Xavi Simons, first of all, getting sent off for Spurs. And then later in the match, they were down to 9 because Christian Romero got sent off. I don't know where to go with this. I could see it being a draw, but it's at Selhurst Park, and I think Palace can somehow grind out results. I don't think it'll be pretty, but I do think Palace can win at home. Against the side, Thomas Frank is under serious pressure now, I would dare say. I think Palace might grind out a 1-0 win. It's not going to be a pretty one, but I think they'll get the 3 points with maybe one goal from maybe Mark Gahey or Jean-Philippe Mateta. But I think Palace will just edge it, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was a draw either. But 1-0 Palace to get the 3 points and push even further up the table. And there you have it, guys. All 10 matches for, Boxing Day through the 28th in the Premier League. I'd love to know your predictions in the comments down below. And we'll see how well these turn out once all the matches have done. Have a great Christmas, guys, and I'll see you after Christmas.